My name is Ken Schmidt. Is 5G a success? And there's reasons to believe both. I think the doom and gloom of the headlines may create a shadow that I don't want to imply here. There has been success with 5G, and there's been some areas where it's not been as successful. In the area of where it's been successful, we continue to see increased data growth. That data growth is a function both of increased need, but increased availability. As carriers made the network better and allowed for more data use, or to provide more data to the end user, users experienced it and used it. So there has been increased data growth, both as a result of and due to the networks being converted to 5G. But that data growth is slowing. So the rate of growth is starting to slow down. And in the article that I just mentioned regarding Europe, is starting to flatten. One thing, one of the major reasons for deployment of 5G from the carrier standpoint, which isn't a good one for them to necessarily advertise in 5G advertisements, but the decreased cost to provide a bit of information to the end user, meaning that it was easier and cheaper for the end user for the carrier to provide a gigabyte or data to the consumer on a scale of somewhere between 4 and 10 times less than what it cost with 4G, significantly less than what it costs with 3G, et cetera. And so it's just far cheaper at this point, to provide service to the end user, even while increased data growth, there was data growth in the network. Simultaneously, we had more flexibility in network operation and design. And so the 5G specifications, allow for all types of innovative things like network slicing, with open radio access networks. And I won't get into the technical components, but suffice it to say, the networks are more flexible and capable than they had been in the past. And then lastly, one of the areas avenues of 5G that's been successful is fixed wireless. And that's the provision of broadband-like services to the home, using a wireless connection instead of a wired connection. The success of fixed wireless is also, a certain extent, a failure of 5G as well. Because had what a carrier generates off of providing a gigabyte of data on a fixed wireless network, or a fixed wireless connection, is significantly less in terms of revenue as compared to what they get from a mobile connection. And so you can see a scenario where if 5G had truly been successful, there would have been less available spectrum to use for fixed wireless. Fixed wireless is not the best use of spectrum and of a wireless network. It supports, and certainly there's been a good amount of growth in that for T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon going forward. But it is not necessarily the best use of 5G spectrum. Reasons that it's not is that there's been it's cost the carrier significantly $100 billion in spectrum and modernization of the equipment for being able to provide 5G type services. So it's been expensive to deploy, and the carriers have been looking forward to recouping the cost of that substantial investment. It's been overhyped. There are no must-have use cases, at least on the consumer level. There's some growing use cases on the industrial or the enterprise level, that justify the use of 5G, but there's still a question in those as to whether or not that needs to be private 5G. That's just a network that the enterprise deploys on its own, that doesn't actually connect to a Verizon or an AT&T or T-Mobile, or a public network that actually provides those services as well. And then lastly, consumer appetite for 5G has been limited.